For those of you who are just joining us, the invitation is always open. If you'll go to the bottom of your device and click that start video icon. And as you come up on video, please do awkwardly wave and smile at our panelists and at one another. Here's the deal. I know our panelists are looking at the gallery view. They're going to get to see you as they share with you. So the invitation here is up on the top left of your screen is to go ahead and click the view option, and then you can click gallery view, and that lets you see all of the beautiful faces. Looks like we've got about 51 folks who are dialed in, so welcome everybody. They keep spotlighting me. You don't need to do that. The real stars of the show. We've got Mo Magic and the Energizer Bunny. So on behalf of the FIT admin team and the entire effort behind fortifying the force, we're going to turn it over to you to share a little bit about who you are, the perspective you bring. And then I know that people are wondering, why do you care so much about this topic? Panelists, over to you, and thank you for being with us today.
Hey, good morning from rainy Dover, Delaware. My name is Matt Alderman. I go by Magic. I'm a career air traffic controller. I've been in 5 assignments, 10 years. 10 words to describe me. I'm a son, I'm a student, I'm a friend, I'm a controller, not to be confused with control freak, but maybe a little bit. I'm an optimist, I'm a supervisor, I'm a boyfriend, I'm an advocate, I'm an empath, I'm a survivor and a fighter. I have been single my whole career, moving around base to base. I have discovered that we have plenty of opportunities and plenty of resources for families and for younger airmen when they move to a new base. But for those of us who are in our worlds considered to be old, there's not a lot. We have the single airman trips, but I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be the old NCO on a trip with all the guys from the dorms. So for me, joining the Single Airmen's and Guardians team was important because I am still single at 10 years and, as an NCO, and that's not common, but there aren't a lot of resources for my peers who are in the same situation. So we have to figure out something to do because moving to a new place isn't easy for anybody, but especially when you move there by yourself.
All right, I guess I'm next. Senior Master Sergeant Doctor, go by Mo, currently stationed in Ramstein. It is late here, not late, but afternoon time. So my 10 words to describe me are airman, maintainer, first sergeant, mentor, life coach, empath, introvert, dog mom, daughter, and a sister. I have also experienced traumatic childhood experience, military sexual trauma, and anxiety and depression. So I've been in 19 years now. I'll be 20 years this September. So I'm getting close to that. Not sure what I want to do, but I have dealt with a lot of, like Matt has talked about, just being single my entire career and dealing with a lot of things that come with being in a male-dominated career field. And then, stepping out, I've always been taking care of people. And I took the leap to be a first sergeant and take care of others because that's what I'm passionate about. And that's why I'm a part of FIT, because using my experiences could potentially help others. And so I would like to see some programs that are geared more towards our unicorn, family of single airmen and guardians. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I am Colonel Janiece Carroll, go by Energizer Bunny, or often referred to as an Energizer Bunny, based on my sheer energy level that I have. So the 10 words, first and foremost, I'm the wing commander at 75th Air Base Wing and installation commander here at Hill Air Force Base out in Utah. I've been in command since July 2020. So truly at the onset of COVID, as we're still really grappling with all things COVID. And I'm due to rotate out this summer, heading back to the building. The building, for those that don't know, that's the Pentagon. And so I will join the team in the Pentagon starting sometime in June. So the words that describe me, first and foremost, are daughter, sister, mother, grandmother, So I am a grandmother, for those that don't know that. Also friend, mentor, advocate. I am a runner. I love running. If you can't see those medals in the back, since I'm showing my office today, I'm an academic. I love learning, lifelong learner. And I'm an airman. And more importantly, I'm an American. And the last one, being an American, really is the word that I really strive hard to make sure we all know that we're Americans first. So that is who I am, Janiece, Energizer Bunny Carroll, and I'm glad to be on part of this panel today. And I am single because I divorced a few years ago. So I am a single airman serving in the rank of colonel, which makes life very difficult.
So for our panelists, as you look up at the beautiful gallery view of faces who are leaning in, I know for me, I'm wondering what's the story that you're sitting with, that because of that story, you're here today. And you can take that where you want it when I say you're here today. But Magic, you shared a little bit in yours. I'm not gonna prime the pump. I'm wondering what would come forward for you. Mo, you have the challenges that we've shared over the time that we've been able to email back and forth. And do I get to call you Energizer Bunny? If I would ask a question, it would be about that last little thing you shared. But let's go back in order. So Magic, I mean, bring it, brother. Why do you care so much? What's your because of that you're here today?
Yeah, so this one's pretty fresh, and I haven't shared it with a lot of people. But on my last deployment, I was sexually assaulted, and I have been through the worst. I've seen the best parts of the Air Force since then. It's been about 7 months, and that's the people that have grabbed me by the collar and said, "Come on, we're going to get you there." And I've seen the worst parts of it, which have been the military healthcare process as far as mental health, and the expedited transfer process, and the red tape that has to be climbed over, ran through, and cut with scissors the size of, when they open those big buildings. That's why I'm on this team, because the experiences that were so hard for me to get through and the processes that I had to push through, I don't think anyone else should have to do that. And with this team, this Fortify the Force, we have the ability to go straight to the top and say, this has to change. We have to do better. If we can't say that our greatest weapon system is our airmen, and then make them jump through 7,000 hoops to make their life better or easier, to do what we need to do to take care of them. There's a handful of people who in my life know who they are and have just really pulled me up from the depths of hell at the worst points. And I appreciate them more than they know, and a lot of them are in the Air Force. But focusing on this single airman part, I ET'd to, I just saw Lindsay Dumont. Lindsay, I haven't seen you since Korea. What's up? Old friends, right? I PCS to Dover. I didn't want to come to Dover. It was the 8th option on my list of expedited transfer, and I was sent here without a support system and without knowing anyone. And the single airman part of that is, if we had programs where we could put people together as single airmen, as single NCOs, maybe life would have been a little bit easier. Maybe if I would have had a community to walk into with other single people, life would have been a little bit easier. So that's why I'm on this specific panel. That's why I'm on this team, and why I'm here today. In the terms of, I think what you were alluding to, why are we all around, is because people in the Air Force who cared enough kept me here.
Hey, Magic, I want to say thank you from my heart to yours. Mo, right before I talk to you, I want to look at the screen. For those of you observing today on video, will you smile just to let me know when Magic talked about a few people who might not know how important they were or are? Who had a feeling that kind of resonated there? Yeah, send them a text tonight, all right? If there's someone out there that you don't know, if they know how important they are, go to the bottom of your text messages. Let's shoot them a little note, call it buddy check. Mo, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, so my story is kind of similar, but it kind of happened right when I got into the military. I joined at 18 years old, and as I was traveling to my first base, I stopped to see a friend at another base and ended up partying with them. And I was, I got into a situation where I was fed alcohol and I was taken advantage of. And so I kind of like pushed it out of my mind. I thought it was my fault. I suffered in silence for a long time. And then eventually I completely forgot about it. But I was also dealing with some childhood trauma too, that when I was molested as a young child, that stuff just came up throughout my career. So I'd say all that to say that it took me about, I'd say 18 years to come to terms that I actually had a problem and I hadn't dealt with that stuff yet. So I have been seeing a therapist to help me, get through those things. And because of that, I am able to help others as well. And I'm so proud to be in the first sergeant position because I can better take care of others and have the empathy for them, because I can probably relate to what they might be going through. And so I'm proud to be part of the FFIT team, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, I'm jumping on board. And this is something that is super important and dear to my heart. So like I said, I'm glad to be here, and thank you everybody for sharing your stories.
Okay, I guess it's my time, Dr. Womack. So I don't have a similar story about any type of abuse. What I do have is airmen seeking assistance coming to me and asking me how to maneuver the landscape. I've had many airmen come to me that have been, whether it's not been treated fairly, whether they're a woman, minority, and how to maneuver the system after they have ran into literally a brick wall, the barrier of talking to their leadership and trying to figure out, as I heard one of the single moms earlier, do I stay in, do I get out? Where's that support mechanism? So from where I sit as an installation commander, how do we connectively come together and support each other as a family, as truly a family of American airmen serving together? And I think that's really about how I lead and guide and try to connect people together. I did have some great mentors, or still do, growing up in my career. I started as an airman, so over 30 years ago. So I started as a young airman, then turned officer. And I remember the amazing support I received as an airman. And I take all of that into my new role just to make sure that we come together. No one should feel like they can't ask for help, but I believe it's my job to look out to see when I know someone needs help, but they are afraid to ask. And I'll share a story with you. Just last week, I'm over at the military clothing sales. I run into this A1C and he says, "Hi, ma'am." I, respond, "Hi, how are you?" And he says, "Ma'am, I'm awful." So A1C colonel in clothing sales, and he just breaks down. He says, "Ma'am, I don't know what to do. One of my dear friends, we had, unfortunately, an active duty suicide here on the installation." He said, "Ma'am, he was my best friend, and I don't know what to do. And right now I'm just here to purchase ribbons because his family wants another set of ribbons." This is a two-striper airman talking to a colonel, and he's just breaking down. I hug him and I said, I'm praying for you. It'll be okay. And he says, "And ma'am, I don't make that much money, but I'm here to do whatever the family wants." And I immediately get into the mode of, you know what, I understand you're trying to do right by the family, but why don't you go ahead and put all those items aside? We have multiple programs to help purchase these items for this airman's family. And so for me, that's how I look at using my role, doing what I do for good, is when I'm out there, regardless of where I'm at, and an airman walks up, I make time to speak to that airman, regardless of their rank, regardless of their stature. And even when they don't fall under my direct command, I always make time to speak to an airman. I believe that's what we need to do as leaders, because when you shy away from it, you may never know. And so that one hit home last week when this young airman said, "Ma'am, he was my best friend and he took his life." So that's why I do what I do.
for our panelists. I just want to say such a thank you. As I'm looking around, reading body languages, occasionally someone will send a little reaction up. We're actually going to do this all at one time. So if you're in the gallery view, you're going to see some magic. But for those of you who are watching, will you scroll down on your screen to that reactions icon? And we've only been together for 15 minutes. You've seen 3 people pour their hearts into the video, but I think as importantly, as I've watched you receive their stories, will you send them a reaction just to let them know what you're sitting with? By the way, in the reactions tab, if you hit the 3 dots, there's a whole nother set of little icons there. Now it's our turn to hear from you. Fortify the Force Initiative team is about Airmen and Guardians, by Airmen and Guardians. We heard from Chief Bass and Chief Toberman this morning. We heard from the Total Force panel that this is much as a ground up approach as it is a support from above approach. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn to you. And you'll see in chat, if you can lean forward and activate the chat function inside of Zoom, I'm going to ask you to take the next 5 minutes. Some of you might need an extra moment to type a few things in. And in those 5 minutes, we're going to ask you to anonymously share your perspectives with us. I have a big ask, folks. I know the Air Force loves its surveys. Pretend this is the initiation of a conversation, because when you come back from filling in these boxes, we're going to ask you to talk about what you wrote. So take an extra moment when you get to a text box that lets you type in 250 characters, see if you can type in 249. It's 10:12 here in the Central Time Zone. I'm going to ask you to turn your video cameras off. Take the next 4 minutes. Let yourself see yourself in that Mentimeter. By the way, I ask people to turn their cameras off so it doesn't feel like we're staring at one another while you're thinking. I'll turn my camera back on at 10:15. We will get going then with our small group discussions. We'll see you back at 10:15, friends. righty, friends. This is always the tough time to decide about when do I interrupt your sharing, your thinking, and your connecting. So if you are at a point where you can come back up on video, let us know you're doing okay over there. I always like to say at about this time of a day like this, if anyone needs to reach out to someone, if you take a look at the participants tab, you're going to see several of us who put an asterisk before our names. That simply indicates we are your FFIT admin team. If you need a shout out, if you need some help, let us know. The panelists, of course, you have the @ symbol in front of your name. So friends, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop the results in the chat box. And what'll happen is I'm about to lose your focus. So let me see if I can explain what we're about to do. If you click on those results, you'll be able to see the first screen, and then on the keyboard, you just click the arrow key and that will cycle through. Energizer Bunny, Mo, Magic, right before I invite this community to go break into small group discussions, they're going to be in groups of 3 and 4. I want to turn the mic over and ask one of the 3 of you to let us know what would you challenge us to talk about for the next 10 minutes? What would you challenge us to talk about in small groups for the next 10 minutes as they're thinking of a response? Friends, in a moment, you're going to find yourself in a small group to have this discussion for 10 minutes. For those of you watching in Facebook or YouTube, here's the ask. Once you hear this challenge, go grab a buddy and set a timer. All right, I should have stalled long enough. Who is going to give us a challenge from the airman, the single airman and guardian panel?
My challenge is for us to be connected at every level. I noticed that I'm probably the single colonel in this room, but we need everyone at every level to be connected, starting from the top down, not just from the bottom up.
If you're willing to connect and take the challenge, please go ahead and start your video. I'm going to invite you into a small group. We'll see you back in about 10 minutes. Your challenge, lean into the video and see how you connect regarding the topic of single airmen and guardians. We'll see you back in 10 minutes, friends. Panelists, it is now a small group of us. We have the entire world watching live on YouTube and Facebook. Also, we're going to have people who watch this recording later on. So I'm going to just facilitate a conversation amongst the 3 of you. But my first prompt to you is, if you see did any of you click on the survey results that came through? You see that? I'm going to bring those up so that people watching in YouTube and Facebook can see. But why don't we just kind of go around and let us know, what is it you see when you look at those results up there? What's on your heart? What's on your mind?
Dr. Womack, where are those results at? Is it in the chat? Oh, there they are. Okay, got it.
Ooh, I can relate to being a single female and, feeling like it's okay to just hit on me. And it was the, you got to get married to fit in the group. Like, I agree with that complete statement. Having no children, you're not part of you're not welcome to the spouses events. Like, you are, but nobody thinks of you because, oh, you don't have kids, so a lot of these definitely relate.
No, go ahead, Mo. I mean, Magic, sorry.
Said that once NCOs get to that, once airmen get to that NCO rank, and people are like, oh, why aren't they married yet? What's wrong with them? They can't build that foundational relationship. And we see a lot of that. We see a lot of what's wrong with them. Like, is that a red flag for the dating community? Why are you single? Like, you've been around for this long. But like for mine, I've moved and deployed every 7 months for the last 3 years. So it takes a long time to build that relationship. A lot of these are so relatable. And I think that I appreciate the anonymity of these responses, because would people say it out loud if they had to?
Not necessarily. And I'll chime in imagine as a single wing commander, the stigma there, right? Colonel, And I was married really for, over 20 years, and we grew apart. And so once I actually became a single senior leader, things got a little different. I was treated differently. It's almost like I was shunned, if you will. And, but why is that? I believe that the barrier or really the bias that you have to be married to serve your country in a senior role needs to end. When you look at the data and you look at the force, and there's very few single senior leaders in our Air Force. And it's, I served in all three of my command jobs. I was married, but my spouse was not there as a squadron commander, but that did not stop me from making sure my airman programs, where spouses included, was taken care of. And so I really believe there is a house that was built for our grandmother and grandfather's Air Force that is still built. And there are so many things out there, and people, they say that they do not discriminate against those things, but they do. And they do it, whether they do it conscious or unconscious. But the fact that we do not have enough senior leaders, single senior leaders in the military, that right there is a statement. And I live it, I breathe it, and I've gone through my share of discrimination with that very fact.
Imagine that's a pretty small dating pool.
Absolutely. And, I was looking at the data. We talk about single airmen. When you look at the data, the Air Force Almanac comes out every year. So last year in the Airman's Almanac, as a captain, you have roughly about 6,500 that are single. And by the time you get to colonel, only 100 of you are single. So that's 61% that changes. I will tell you, you're told you need to get married, you should get married, but why do you have to be married to serve your country in the role that you want to serve your country? And I really believe that's the bureaucracy that we really just need to rid in our Air Force, really in all of our forces for that matter. So, but no, it is a true thing, and it's unfortunate.
It is. And I agree with you, Colonel, because like I've always heard, kind of when I was younger, you could never make chief or be a command chief if you didn't have a family. And I always thought, like, why is it a thing?
Yes.
So,
but I always say my Air Force is my family, right? I mean, you're my family. So yeah.
No, I agree. That's all I have. That's all I know is the Air Force. And this is my family.
A lot of times in these discussions that we're having specifically over the past couple of years, and remember, I'm new around here. So 39 months ago, turned 47. My wife and I said, hey, let's close our company and move from Santa Barbara to Montgomery, just, shake things up a little bit so I could work for you here at Air University. I hear this. I'm going to share with you what I hear, and then I'm going to ask you a question. I hear, after this kind of a session, someone will say something like, I can't believe how much they shared and how hard they've had it in their past, and they were willing to talk about that. But here's my thing. I hear this almost every day. So I'm wondering, why are we worried, or why does it shock us to have these kinds of conversations?
I'll just put it plain and simple as judgment. We're judged when we talk about things. We're shunned when we talk about things. We are a service of a kinder, gentler. We are a service. Oh, well, they shouldn't say that out loud. But we talk about wanting to have hard conversations. We don't have hard conversations. We have feel-good conversations. And we talk about being bold leaders, but we only talk about bold leadership when you're a youngster, not when you are wearing colonel or general. Because when you have bold conversations as a colonel, a general, a chief, then it's like, oh, well, we can't let that person continue to progress because they're being too bold. So people like the status quo, Dr. Womack. People like the status quo. When you're just agreeing with people, it is okay. But when you start turning things on its head and you really start highlighting where we're at as an institution, people don't like that. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. And I am a part of, let's shake it up a little bit. Let's do something different.
Well, I'm going to show you something different here. And I think this proves what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
When I see this kind of response where I don't do public math, so that's less than 30. Can we just say, when I see 19 of less than 30 people say, I think so, I wonder what the next 5 to 10 years of conversations can be so that people can move to that. And I guess my question is, what is that you see FIT supporting us moving toward? What is the there that you see FIT supporting us moving toward?
Well, I mean, for me, I think I feel like bringing this attention to it, that it's a stigma, yes, but it's real. Maybe the FIT will help us establish more programs and kind of just make it more aware that, hey, you know, you have single airmen out there, no matter what rank, but make sure you make them feel included and invited, whatever you're doing, whether it's with work or off duty, and to just let the judgment go away when people are sharing their stories. Because I know for me, it was like what Colonel said, I kind of hid my life for a while, just because I was afraid of judgment. So, but if we let people be vulnerable, I think we'd have a better force for it.
I think speaking statistically too, looking into the next 5 to 10 years, the generation behind mine, I'm 28, the people who are newer airmen, and across America, we're seeing people get married later and later in life. It's no longer the American dream to be married and have a house and kids running around. So I think that we're going to see a greater population of single airmen over the next 5 to 10 years later into the ranks. And 2, I think that a lot of these programs that are built for spouses are going to have to be reimagined to be built for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The one word I will tell you, we often say diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. It's really about diversity. It's about having a seat at the table, regardless of your marital status, your gender, your ethnicity. So it really aligns with the thing that we've talked about since I was a young captain, about having diversity across the force. Diversity is all about the marital status. It's about your emotional intelligence. It's about your experience. And it's also about accessibility, right? When we say accessibility, sometimes we think those that have different types of, whether you are EFMP, whether you have some type of disability, but accessibility is also about us, those single individuals, having access to other programs. So equity is about being equally offered opportunities regardless of your marital status. So the DEINA, although people may define it as one thing, really, it is the thing that defines our landscape as we go forward. It is truly about, we talk about it, where's the call to action? So when we talk about FIT, I believe FIT is merely a pillar of diversity, equity, and inclusion as we move forward with the Air Force.
I want to say thank you. We've now been joined by groups who were talking in smaller configurations, 3, 4, 5 people at a time. For those of you, if you don't mind, for this next little bit, will you start your videos for me? I just want to run a couple of quick polls. So I'm in gallery view. So Magic, Mo, and Energizer Bunny, if you want to click view and gallery view. Let's do the first question. Smile if you talk to someone you'd never talked to in your life before. Okay, I got a couple of you there. Cover your camera with your hand if you shared something with someone you have not shared recently or ever. And what I'm fascinated by is in an environment where we can kind of open and then close a door, we can come together, we can look into the video camera, and we can say, I think I'm trusted here. I think I'm trusted here. And because I'm trusted here, we're going to hear stories. When someone starts sharing and says, this is recent or raw, and I haven't said this out loud, And then, sir, you share with us publicly at a scale that people can lean in and go, oh my goodness, if he took a step, maybe I can meet them halfway. For those of you who came back from the break, we've got about 7 minutes. I'm going to go off script here. There are 3 of you who, because of that conversation you had, you're sitting with something that you'd like to say out loud. What I'm going to ask is for 3 of you, you know who you are. If you click on the reactions tab, there's an item called raise hand. And I'm going to ask for 3 of you to come off mute and share with us, because of the conversation you had in your small groups, what's present for you? So right now I've got everyone looking for the reactions icon. They're hovering over the raise hand option. And I'll wait here. Okay, so JBSA Fort Sam Houston, you'll be number 1. Stand by, please. Who will be my number 2? Captain Gathers, you're my number 2. I need 1 more. You are hovering over the reactions tab. You can see the raise hand option. You're thinking, should it be me? Yeah. The resounding answer is yes, we need you. Who would like to be the 3rd person to share? JBSA, Captain Gathers, stand by 1. I've got somebody who's going to click that raise hand button to be my 3rd sharer. Right now, everyone's looking at one another going, is it going to be you? All right, I've got my 3rd. We'll have 1 person come in on audio only. JBSA, first of all, you got to let us know who you are and then share with us in a breath or 2. Because of the conversation you had with your small group, what's present for you?
So good morning, everyone. I'm Marlo Bearden. I am from Joint Base San Antonio, and I'm actually one of 3 violence prevention integrators. Because of the conversation that we had earlier, this is a thought that I've had probably, I think it from time to time, but the conversation definitely brought it back up. We're in a very resource rich, but communication poor environment, I think. Nowadays with technology, people have so much to look at, right? That we're now, going to using these QR codes to drive people, from where they are with their cell phones directly to where we want them to go. But definitely, I feel like the concept of connectedness and belongingness across the Air Force is something that we can definitely, I think, increase using technology. So what I would like to see is a way for us to actually connect with airmen at the individual level, find out what their goals are, find out what their interests are, right? Because if we're not finding it out in the beginning, then we're going to find out in the end where they're struggling or that we're not meeting them in those personal areas. And once we have that information, we should be able to find a way to drive those, drive like-minded individuals together, right? So if you like, painting with a twist, then we can meet up and do that, right? Likewise, if you're like lots of airmen are, and you want to develop a budget to save $5,000 this year, then you can meet up with a group of people who are, thinking along those lines. But that's a thought that we just, one of the thoughts that we discussed in our group this morning.
Hey, will everyone reach down to the reactions tab and throw a reaction for the word connection? Awesome. Captain Gathers, over to you, and then we're going to go to Allison next.
Because of this conversation, I'm going to bring my unit in during my next commander's call and ask how many people felt discriminated against in their career for being a single airman. I have been one for a majority of my career, and I'm the only single commander at my base. So I appreciate this experience because I never even realized that about myself. So thank you.
You can throw a reaction her way. That's fine. Allison, over to you, my friend.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, my camera is not working. I'm on my work computer.
Welcome
So
to the party.
thank you. I was sharing in my group that I spent my career in the force support arena. And I can speak from personal experience the number of times where we in the force support world would try and do events for single airmen, not just single airmen, but families, young families, and we have these opportunities. But because we are so, I don't know how to say this the right way, but like I spend all day with you, and I don't know if I necessarily want to come back and you know hang out with you after work. But I know at least here in the Colorado Springs area, we have plenty of military installations that would like to partner with the local community. So I think that there should be a way for us to work the force support angle, but also support the community. And I think that that would help strengthen the opportunities that young airmen, young families have for that those community options. Does that make sense? As it was coming out, it didn't quite come out as coherently as I wanted it to.
I'm a big fan of an author's favorite hashtag, which is rough draft. So the more we can experiment with that, thank you. Thank you for all the volunteers. So this is the beginning. This is the beginning, right? FFIT stood up out of Corona. And this morning we heard from Chief Toberman and Chief Bass explain, we had one airman ask, how is this different than the efforts for change that we have seen? And I encourage those of you who can to go watch that video recording over on YouTube, over on Facebook, to hear from their perspective how this is different. One of the differences is we get to hear your voices. So a couple of things are about to happen. I'm watching the clock. I'm that guy. It's 11:38, which means we are nearing our lunch hour. This is going to be a break. For those of you who are coming back after lunch, we're going to have a new Zoom link. For those of you who are watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'll have a continuation of the production. For our panelists, what we understand, what we know is that we're getting started. You're not going anywhere. But I would like you to see this. For those of you who are on the screen, just give me a smile or a nod. How many of you did not know you were as interested in single airmen and guardians as you now are? Who's a little bit more interested in this, knowing that there's some people in their units that might need their support? They're reaching out. They're how are yous today. On behalf of the FFIT admin team, I'm going to say thank you, everyone. Can we do one more reaction round of applause for our three panelists calling in from all over the country and from all over responsibility? Thank you, everyone. We'll resume live in the next Zoom link starting at 12:40 Eastern. You can probably log on a little bit early. We'll be ready for you. If anybody needs any help, you can stand by and ask a question or two. We'll do what we can. You can also contact us through FFIT if you need. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.
So Mo and Magic, I think guess we're done, huh? Nice
The end of the
sharing the
gig.
panel with you guys.
Yes, ma'am. Same here.